I spoke to Pavlos Efthymiou. He's the policy manager of Institution Quraysh in London and a researcher at the University of Cambridge. I asked him about the significance of this trip.
The historical dimension of such a visit is judged by results. And if one looks at the picture, we probably have not a very constructive visit from what we can tell for now, in terms of what was signed, what was said on camera. So a very complicated picture, very important visit. Can we say whether it was historical? Hopefully, if it ushers in a new era of positive and constructive relations, yes. But at the moment, we're not seeing that.
So what are the expectations then? Are we expecting some sort of concrete outcomes, or is this more of a restarting point?
Well, I guess the way you're setting it is a very interesting one. It could be the potential for a restart, having seen that both sides basically narrated their concrete lines. President Erdogan touched on a few issues which, from the Greek perspective, are not constructive at all. One of them is the Lausanne Treaty, which is an international treaty signed by 11 signatories. So effectively, it's something that is not negotiable, and revisionism there are definitely not constructive, but we saw that. So the question is, can we take this low point in terms of public diplomacy and transform it into an opportunity for a new era for confidence building, a rapprochement with the EU, starting with Greece as a potential window. So I see a hopeful dimension to it if it's spinned properly and leaders put their back towards such a dynamic. But again, the expectations, it's down to the leaders. And what we saw was a complicated picture. And, I'm keeping the hopeful dimension of the restart, which you mentioned.
And for people who aren't familiar, we know that Erdogan did raise the possibility of changes to the treaty that governs the borders. What does each country have to lose or gain by making some changes?
Well, any form of treaty revisionism obviously is not acceptable by the Greeks. So I'm guessing that one could see this as a verbal provocation. And, there are two types of provocations that we often see in the Greek-Turkish relations. One of them is, the aerial crossings, the competition over the Aegean, where effectively the Greeks have to basically push back the Turkish Air Force, and this is not constructive. And then again, you have the verbal provocation, which is any implication of treaty revisionism, which is not on the table, is not constructive, and happened today. Greece is an essential member state of the EU, and in that sense, we have to avoid any form of tension, even in the normative realm when we speak about these things which are basically not negotiable from the Greek side.
Now, let's also take a look at what's happening in the Greek economy. Where do things currently stand with its bailout?
That's a more interesting and auspicious discussion, I have to say. Being also the business and the policy advisor at the Hellenic Entrepreneur Association, we are very optimistic right now. What I'm seeing is that the third review has been completed, at least in principle, very fast. We are seeing the last elements of the agreement, crystallizing and soon to be passed through the parliament. So the third review has been very swift. We had, as you said, small but steady growth in the last 3 quarters. So there is what we would say conserved optimism. And with the Greek economy basically having a lot of potential to recover a great percentage of its GDP, which it lost during the crisis, it's a great opportunity to invest because prices are relatively lower and there's a great window for investment. So I'd say that we have a positive momentum in the economy.
So as we look at the factors which have driven this growth for the last 3 quarters, what needs to happen to ensure that economic momentum continues for Greeks and Greek businesses?
Well, I guess the most important thing is to preserve the political stability that the markets perceive, because when you see investment, there is also this belief that things will get better and the trust in the government that we will no longer have the adventures that we had in the past. So steering clear of any form of political adventure, I would say, is definitely the political priority. And then in economics, it is the time to invest. It is the time for businesses to take some risk, modest, steady, and within the parts of the economy that are showing signs of growth. I would say that the real estate is one, tourism is another one. And, we have all these areas where Greece is competitive. That would be the shipping and a number of other industries where we still have a lot of potential. And, we are also seeing a growth in the startup ecosystem, in new businesses, new projects, and, a lot of European money opening up, a lot of opportunity for smart investments which will have a sustainable character. So I'd say, it's both, it's a combination of political factors and investment from both the private sector, and bigger actors out there.